Imagine walking through the massive Crystal Palace in London in 1851, where all the marvels of the Industrial Revolution were on exhibit. Of course, the decorative arts were also represented, with all the latest art and furniture on display. Now, fast forward to a modern antique shop, where you might find some of those very same items today. You spot a stunning 19th century cabinet. It's decorated with elegant marquetry and glistening bronze accents. Was this masterpiece born in a Parisian atelier or crafted in a London workshop? The answer may not be obvious at first glance. In this video, we'll delve into the history of the mid-19th century European world of migrating craftsmen and cross-border design battles, as we unlock, pun intended, some secrets to identifying whether an antique piece is French or English. Hello my friends, and welcome to another episode of Antique Acquisitions. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and check out my store, Old Europe Antique Home Furnishings, when you're ready to bring the ambience of the past into your home or office. And now, let's rewind to the mid-19th century, a time of revolutions, rising empires, and artistic ambition. In 1848, the French monarchy collapsed when King Louis Philippe fell, and Louis Napoleon Bonaparte became president of the Second French Republic. He was the nephew of Napoleon Bonaparte, who had ended the First French Republic in 1804 by declaring himself emperor. Following in his uncle's footsteps, Louis Napoleon ended the four-year-old Second French Republic in 1852 and ushered in the Second French Empire, l'Empire Français, by declaring himself Emperor Napoleon III. This was more than a political shift. It was a cultural rebranding. Napoleon III, or III, wanted Paris to be the crown jewel of global style. Under his rule, French furniture and decorative arts saw a renaissance. He encouraged grand design, elaborate craftsmanship, and opulent materials. Lavish was in. The style became known as the Napoleon III style, a revivalist mix of Gothic, Renaissance, Louis XVI, and Oriental influences, all layered with extravagant detail. This is another way in which he followed in the footsteps of his uncle Napoleon Bonaparte, who was responsible for Empire-style furniture some 50 years prior. I've also done a video on that furniture style. In fact, I'll put the link in the description. But ironically, while France was trying to impress the world, many French cabinet makers were fleeing Paris due to unrest and lack of opportunity. London, by contrast, was a booming hub of wealth and industry, and it had a deep appetite for French taste. French artisans brought their skills across the Channel. In London, they found work with English firms hungry for French flair, and they helped transform the Victorian style into something more cosmopolitan, blending French elegance with British structure. This new exchange wasn't limited to trade. It played out on the world stage. In 1851, Britain hosted the Great Exhibition at the Crystal Palace. It was the first World's Fair celebrating the marvels of the Industrial Revolution, a vast glass building filled with inventions, textiles, and yes, furniture. Over 6 million visitors toured the halls. Among the highlights were French cabinets, English desks, and hybrid masterpieces that blurred borders. British firms showcased French-inspired work, while French artisans studied British techniques. Not to be outdone, Napoleon III responded with his own Exposition Universelle in Paris in 1855. He wanted to prove that France, and not Britain, led the world in taste. These exhibitions became a kind of arms race, fueling innovation, imitation, and cultural exchange. They also ignited cross-border demand. British buyers yearned for Louis XV and XVI styles. Parisians began commissioning English mahogany sideboards, and as styles migrated, the line between national origins grew fuzzy. Furniture firms on both sides of the Channel increasingly shared the same vocabulary of form and ornament. What mattered was no longer national purity, but fashionable taste and execution. A Louis XVI sideboard might be made in Manchester. A Chippendale-style break front might come from Marseille. So, how do you tell the difference today? Is a cabinet designed in the French manner but built in London still French? What if it was made in Paris with an English trade label? Even professionals get stumped. But when the style itself is inconclusive, the answer may lie in the hardware. French and English furniture of the 1800s used different lock mechanisms. One of the biggest design differences is the direction the key turns. French locks usually turn clockwise to lock, while English locks turn counterclockwise. Additionally, French locks often require 2 full turns to secure, a feature known as a double throw. The first turn locks it, but the second engages it fully, a detail almost exclusive to French craftsmanship. So if you have a piece with an original double throw lock, it's likely of French origin. For English locks, by contrast, it's one solid turn, clean, quick, and practical. Now, let's take a look at construction. French cabinets often have full-length vertical locking bars inside doors. English furniture tends to use smaller horizontal bolts. Now here's one more fun little detail. Decoration inside the lock. French locksmiths sometimes hid tiny symbols in the lock. Hearts, clovers, even initials. English locks were more utilitarian. Think Brahma or Chubb, patented and engineered, but not ornamental. But here's the twist. Just because a piece has an English lock doesn't mean it was made in England. Victorian collectors often replaced broken or missing locks. French cabinets were commonly refitted with English mechanisms. So if you spot mismatched screws or freshly cut wood around the lock, it could mean a later alteration. This doesn't necessarily diminish the value of the furniture for decorative purposes, but some purist collectors may pay more for a piece with original hardware. Also, examine the overall consistency. Does the lock match the craftsmanship of the rest of the piece? Are the screws slotted or Phillips head? Here's a hint. Phillips head weren't even around until the 1930s. You have to use every detail as a clue. Now, let's talk about joinery. Joinery is simply the art of joining wood pieces together with nails, screws, glue, or complex joints. A subtle clue to origin may lie in the dovetail joinery. English dovetails from this period, especially after the 1850s, were often machine cut and very uniform, with tight, evenly spaced pins and tails. In contrast, French dovetails tended to remain hand cut longer and may appear larger, steeper, or slightly irregular. On high-end French pieces, you might find finely hidden dovetails or decorative blind joints, while English furniture often showed dovetails at the back and concealed them at the front with conch beading. It's a small detail, but it might just reveal where the cabinet was born. While locks and dovetails offer mechanical clues, the overall style and materials used can also hint at a piece's origin. French furniture of the Napoleon III era often featured ebonized finishes, gilt bronze mounts called ormolu, and exotic woods like rosewood, tulip wood, or kingwood. Curves were often exaggerated, and marquetry or boule work was common, especially in Parisian pieces. By contrast, English furniture leaned toward mahogany, walnut, or oak with a preference for symmetry, restrained carving, and flat lines and flat planes in line with high Victorian taste. French pieces frequently included cabinet maker stamps, especially in Paris, while English ones often used paper labels or engraved plaques inside drawers or on the back. These stylistic cues, paired with structural evidence, can help you trace a cabinet's national roots more confidently. The 19th century was a time of great upheaval and artistic exchange. Napoleon III rebuilt Paris and pushed French design to global prominence. The Crystal Palace exhibition set off a wave of international style, and amid it all, craftsmen carried their traditions across borders. Furniture became a canvas where politics, craftsmanship, and culture collided, and in the smallest details, a bolt, a keyhole, a signature, you can still see that story. What clues have you discovered in your antique finds? Ever spotted a French lock in an English sideboard? Tell us your stories in the comments. Now, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content about history and antiques in the future. And please do consider Old Europe Antique Home Furnishings when you're ready to bring the past into your home or office with antiques. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.